Welcome to the Beauty Moves podcast. I am your host, Koyeta Tamara, and your guide on this transformative journey. This podcast is your ultimate destination for inspiration, actionable strategies, and real talk conversations about building a successful business while becoming the best version of yourself. We'll dive into topics that empower you to elevate your skills, grow your brand, and navigate the challenges of entrepreneurship with confidence. You will hear from industry experts, learn the secrets behind thriving businesses, and discover the mindset shifts that will set you apart in a competitive world. So whether you're starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, you're in the right place. Together, let's take bold action and make your vision a reality. Let's make beauty moves. I want to talk about when people are leaving your organization, when people are leaving your business. If one person leaves your business, you may be thinking, this is just a bad fit, which could be entirely accurate. But if two people leave, you might start wondering what's going on. But what happens when good people keep leaving? That's when I want you to stop looking at people for a minute and start looking at your business. Sometimes your turnover rate is actually telling you something about your operation that your numbers aren't showing you yet. This matters most if you're the owner and you keep thinking, I just can't find good people. And I've heard these statements over and over again. Nobody wants to work anymore. I've trained them and then they leave. And I finally get someone and then they quit. And I understand why you would feel a certain way about that, because you've invested your time, you've trained them, you've trusted them, and when they leave, it starts to feel personal. But today I want you to look at turnover through a different lens, because what if the person leaving isn't the problem? Stop to think about that for a second. What if the exit is giving you information about something happening inside of your business? So we're going to flip that on its head. And that's what we're going to get into today. So get comfortable, and I want you to really listen to this one. Think about the last person that left your business and stay with me here, because there may be something in their exit that you haven't looked at yet. So let's talk about what happens when a good employee leaves, when someone leaves. And usually there's a story. Perhaps they got another opportunity, they weren't committed, they needed more flexibility or more money, or they just weren't a good fit anymore. And sometimes that's exactly what happens. People leave, people change, things change, life happens, life be lifing. I'm not suggesting every resignation is a leadership failure, but if you're seeing a pattern, that's something different. If you're constantly hiring and training and replacing and training again and asking your team to get back to where they were 6 months ago, then that's not just a hiring problem. These things are operationally expensive and emotionally expensive. The turnover actually creates a cycle through your business for you. It creates work for you where you have to recruit, you have to interview, you have to onboard, you have to train, answer questions, cover shifts, explain things over and over again, right? And your experienced people carry more because the new person is learning right now, right? Clients feel the changes, and you as the owner may have to take back things that you have already handed off through this process. And the cycle starts again, right? You lose an employee, and the next 6 months you spend dealing with operational consequences. That's why I don't want you to treat turnovers like a simple HR metric. I want you to see it as information. Let me give you a situation that I think a lot of you owners will recognize. Imagine you have someone on your team and they're really good. They're reliable, the clients love them, they're learning, they're becoming confident. And you start to feel really great about your decision to hire this person. But then you start noticing that they're getting frustrated and they're asking questions that really seem small, like who's responsible for this? And because you're busy, you answer them. You tell them what to do, you send them a quick text, you maybe pull them aside and just tell them, do it this way for now. And then something else comes up and you answer it again in another situation that no one anticipated. And it comes to you, you solve it, and other employees in the meantime are doing something differently, you correct it. You step in, the team keeps moving, and from the outside, everything looks fine. But imagine what it feels like to be the employee. You're trying to do a good job. Like, I'm trying to do a good job. But imagine trying to figure out what good means. If something I've said here made you stop and think, you'll probably want to come find me on Substack. I write about the things we don't always have time to unpack here, about building a business, making better decisions, money, leadership, faith, and figuring out what this next season actually requires from you. Come join me at Beauty and Beyond, the CEO edition, and I'll meet you there. But maybe you're at the point where reading isn't enough. You know there's something you need to change about your business, and you want a place to work through it, ask better questions, and actually figure out what to do next. That's why I created Beauty and Beyond, the Inner Circle on Patreon. It's a closer conversation where we talk deeper strategy and a place for us to actually work through the things we're talking about here on Beauty Moves. If you're ready to stop sitting on the idea and start doing something with it, then join me inside the circle. I found that we often know what we don't want, but it's hard to describe what we want. It's the same concept. You don't know what the standard is because it changes depending on who's working. And you don't know where to find the answer, so you just keep asking and then start making your own decisions. And then someone gets upset with you when you do something wrong. Now you're frustrated, we're all frustrated, and nobody actually sat down to find out what is the structure underneath it. And that's how chaos becomes culture and people start leaving. Here's where I want to challenge something. A lot of you think a good employee should be able to figure things out, and I've heard this time and time again. And I agree, there is a level of ownership that you should expect from your team. But if we're being fair, if the information exists in your head and you're not directing them where to find the information, then how exactly are they supposed to know? You can't be surprised when people are doing things three different ways. If nobody has clearly defined who handles a situation, why are you frustrated when everyone is bringing it to you? If your team has to ask you 12 times a day to do things correctly, then you don't necessarily have a people problem. If it's one person, that's different. If it's multiple people, then that's an issue. You have an information problem, a decision-making problem, a training problem, a process. Something's up, and those things are fixable. That's the good news. That's why I always keep coming back to structure. As the person that's sat in multiple different roles and primarily has handled the structure and built the infrastructure, structure gives people somewhere to go. That's what it's supposed to do. They know what the expectations are. They know what belongs to them. They know what to do next. They know what happens next. They know where to find the answer. And that matters more than we sometimes realize. And there's something else I want you to think about. Your best people are often the ones that feel the operational pull first. Why? Because they're paying attention. They're trying to do things well. They are taking care of the clients. They are trying to support the team. They're noticing the gaps. They're noticing the same problem that keeps happening over and over again. They're noticing that everyone has a different answer. And sometimes they may even come to you about that. They're noticing that they're doing things that aren't technically in their job because somebody has to do it. It's not being done. And eventually, they get tired. They care, but caring can be exhausting when you're constantly compensating for a system that isn't working. And that's the part I want you to understand. Your strongest employee may be absorbing chaos that you aren't even seeing because you're just seeing the results. They're living through the process. Two different things. Now let's look at this. Let's say you have a team member who spends an extra 20 minutes every day fixing something that should have been handled through a clear process. So 20 minutes doesn't actually sound like much, but multiply that by 5 days. And then multiply those 5 days by 4 weeks. And then now let's do that to 12 months. Now add the emotional cost, the frustration, the interruptions and conversations and the mistakes that come up. then the employee just decides to move on, and everyone is shocked. They're always shocked because what's the common thought process? Oh, they're doing so well. And that's the point exactly. They may have been doing well, but they've reached the point where they don't want to spend another year or so working around problems that no one's fixing. And that's why I want you to stop celebrating the employee who can survive chaos. That's not a standard, and that's not the standard. I want you to build a business where good people don't have to be unusually resilient just to do their jobs. So what do you do with this information? I don't want you to go to your next team meeting and just say, yeah, our systems are terrible. Instead, start smaller, start on a micro level. And this week, I want you to ask one person on your team questions. I want you to ask them, what's the part of your business that feels most unclear or feels unnecessarily difficult right now? And I want you to listen. Don't defend it. Don't explain it. Don't tell them why it has to be that way. Just listen. You can gain more from listening because it's going to help move you towards your next system. Maybe it's something in the closing, inventory, or your client process. Maybe it's something you've never even thought about because you've been doing it for so long that it feels obvious to you. And that's the information you need. Then I want you to take that one answer and document it. Turn it into a process, SOP. I want you to put information like who owns it, what needs to happen, where does the information live, what happens when something goes wrong. Because that is indeed structure. And structure doesn't have to make your business feel robotic. It actually creates room for people to do their job very well. Now, there is a difference between being available to your team and being the answer to everything. Two different things. And I want you to think about that, because if your team needs you every time something happens, then you're functioning as the escalation department, and that gets exhausting. And I'm sure you didn't build a business to be all up in the business at all times. Your team members should absolutely be able to come to you, but ideally fewer and fewer things require your intervention because you've built clarity around it. And that's the goal. A team that knows when they need you. That's a huge difference. So here's your 3-question team check. And I want you to ask one member the question. And the 3 questions are, what part of your job feels unclear? What problems do you find yourself solving over and over again? And number 3, what is something you wish we had a better process for? That's it. Start with what they're telling you. And the important part is answer and don't make them responsible for fixing it. That's your job as the owner. They're giving you the information, you steward it and turn it into structure. And if you're listening to this and you're realizing that you have more operational friction than you thought, I want you to start with my free operational scorecard. And it's going to help you look at your business beyond the obvious things that you're already watching and that you've already identified maybe creating unnecessary pressure for you and your team. And if you're at the point where you know you need something bigger, then I want you to sit down with me and actually work through it. And that's where my CEO strategy session actually comes in. We can look at what's happening inside of your business, identify what's creating the most friction, and figure out what needs your attention first. Having your next good hire won't magically fix the problem. I want you to remember that. I want to try this small exercise. Think about the last person that's left your team and think about the experience they've had working for you. Did they figure things out on their own? Were they asking you questions? What did they have to compensate for while they were there? Because turnovers can tell you something if you're willing to listen to what it's saying. And if you find something this week that does come up, do not panic. Just start building it one process at a time. That's how you start building a business where good people can actually do good work without having to fight the structure around them. I hope you found this helpful. Take care. Thank you for tuning into the Beauty Moves podcast. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment, as this helps improve my ranking. Take care. Until next time.